Welcome back, deep divers. Today, we're heading to the gorgeous beaches of Koh Samui to explore the real estate market.
Sounds like paradise.
Oh, it definitely is.
Mm.
But before we get swept away by the island vibes, we're grounding ourselves with insights from Ocean Worldwide. They're a luxury real estate agency, been operating in, and get this pronunciation right, Phuket, that's how you say Phuket, since 2004.
Phuket, got it.
They've helped thousands of people navigate this market, particularly those looking at those high-end properties.
So we're talking luxury villas, beachfront estates, that sort of thing.
Exactly. Think dream homes with stunning ocean views. And we're going to tap into their expertise to understand what makes Koh Samui real estate tick. Is it a good investment? What are the risks? All that good stuff.
I'm all ears. Let's start with Koh Samui itself. What's the appeal beyond just the beautiful beaches?
Well, imagine this. Lush mountains, swaying palm trees, crystal clear waters. It's that classic tropical paradise image.
Okay, that's the postcard version. But what about the actual lifestyle?
It's incredibly diverse. You've got everything from world-class diving and snorkeling to peaceful yoga retreats. You can find bustling night markets and incredible local restaurants one day, then be chilling at a luxurious spa the next.
So a mix of relaxation and adventure with a dash of culture.
Exactly. And that's a big part of what attracts both tourists and investors.
Speaking of investors, let's dive into the real estate market. What are the key factors driving interest in Koh Samui?
Well, one major factor is simple: land scarcity. Koh Samui is an island, meaning there's only so much space for development.
Limited supply, high demand. That's real estate 101, right?
You got it. And that scarcity drives up prices, making it potentially very lucrative.
Makes sense. So what else is fueling this market? I imagine tourism plays a big role.
Absolutely. Koh Samui has its own international airport, making it easily accessible. And that constant flow of visitors translates into a strong rental market.
So you could potentially buy a property and generate income from vacation rentals.
Exactly. It's a popular strategy for investors.
Okay, so we've got scarcity and tourism. Anything else working in Koh Samui's favor?
The Thai government has actually implemented policies that are very favorable to foreign investors. They've really streamlined a lot of the processes.
So they're trying to attract foreign investment. What kind of incentives are we talking about?
Well, things like tax benefits and making ownership structures a little bit easier to navigate for non-citizens.
Okay, so we've got a beautiful island, a booming tourism industry, limited land, and government incentives. It's starting to sound like a pretty sweet deal. But let's talk about the actual benefits for an investor.
Well, the most obvious benefit is property appreciation. As demand keeps rising and that land remains scarce, property values are likely to keep climbing.
So even if you don't rent it out, your investment could appreciate significantly over time.
Precisely. It's like watching your money grow while lounging on a beach.
Sounds nice. And then, of course, there are the rental yields from all those tourists we talked about.
Right. Owning a property in Koh Samui can create a pretty steady stream of passive income. But it's important to remember that no investment is without its risks.
True. So what are some of the potential downsides? What should investors be cautious about?
Well, probably the biggest concern is Koh Samui's dependence on tourism. We saw what happened during the pandemic, right? Global events can have a huge impact.
So if tourism takes a hit, the whole economy feels it, including the real estate market.
Exactly. And that's something investors need to carefully consider.
Makes sense. Any other potential challenges? What about infrastructure? I know some islands struggle with things like water and electricity.
Koh Samui's been making progress, especially with transportation. But yeah, utilities, particularly water, are still developing in some areas.
So potential investors should definitely do their due diligence and research the infrastructure in the specific area they're interested in.
Absolutely. And speaking of due diligence, we can't forget about environmental risks. It's a tropical island, so things like monsoons and storms are a reality.
Right. Those are inherent risks with any coastal property.
And lastly, real estate markets everywhere go through cycles. Koh Samui's no different. So investors need to understand that there will be ups and downs.
So diversification is key. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, as they say.
Exactly. Now, let's get into the specifics of being a foreign investor in Thailand. What does that entail?
Well, there are specific legal frameworks around property ownership for non-citizens. For instance, you can own condos outright, but there are some limitations.
Right. I've heard about that. You can't just buy up as much as you want.
Exactly. Foreign ownership in any given condo building is capped at 49%. The other 51% has to be owned by Thai nationals.
Interesting. So there's a built-in mechanism to ensure Thai citizens maintain control. What about other property types, like villas or land?
Owning those gets a bit trickier for foreigners. They might have to set up a Thai limited company to hold the property title.
A Thai limited company. Can you break that down a bit? What does that even mean?
It's basically a legal structure that lets foreigners have a controlling interest in a Thai company, but it still complies with those ownership restrictions. You can own up to 49% of the company.
Okay, so there are ways to navigate those restrictions, but it sounds like having expert legal advice is pretty crucial.
Absolutely. Property laws in another country can get complicated, especially when it comes to ownership and visas.
Speaking of visas, what do foreign investors need to know about staying in Thailand long term?
Initially, a valid passport and proof of funds to buy the property will get you in, but for longer stays, you'll need to look at specific visa options.
Like, for example,
There are retirement visas, long-term stay visas linked to investments, even ones specifically for business owners. It really depends on your situation and plans.
so do your homework. Don't just assume you can buy a place and stay forever. Make sure you understand the legal requirements.
Exactly. So Koh Samui has this amazing blend of beauty, potential, and unique challenges.
It's not just about the island's charm. It's also about understanding the legal landscape. Before we go to the next part, what's really stood out to you?
The balance between global and local factors shaping Koh Samui's real estate is really intriguing. You've got international tourism and foreign investment on one hand, and the Thai government shaping development on the other.
Great observation. And it leads to a question for our listeners. If you were to invest in Koh Samui, what type of property and location would fit your goals? What kind of lifestyle are you after? Keep those questions in mind as we continue our deep dive in the next part.
It really highlights that real estate decisions are personal. Each investment has to be tailored, right?
Absolutely. No one-size-fits-all approach here. Speaking of tailoring, let's go back to Koh Samui's reliance on tourism. We talked about how COVID hit the island, but what were the lasting implications?
Yeah, it's important to unpack that. Tourism is so tied to the island's economy, it's like the heartbeat.
Exactly. So when the pandemic hit, how did Koh Samui adapt?
Well, one thing they did was focus more on domestic tourism. When international travel shut down, they shifted gears, started targeting the Thai market with special deals and packages.
Smart move. It's all about diversifying, right? Not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. And that diversification goes beyond tourists. Koh Samui's been trying to attract remote workers, the digital nomad crowd.
So not just people coming for a week's vacation, but those who want to stay for months, maybe even longer.
Precisely. The island's a pretty tempting place to live and work remotely, especially if you can swing it. Beautiful, relatively affordable.
Yeah, I can see the appeal. Trading a tiny city apartment for like a beachfront villa with high-speed internet.
It's a dream for many.
Hmm.
And this shift towards remote work, longer stays, it's changing the real estate scene. There's more demand for properties that cater to this new crowd.
Interesting. So what kind of properties are we talking about? What are these digital nomads looking for?
Think condos with rock-solid internet, co-working spaces built in, maybe even entire developments designed for remote workers. It's a niche within a niche, and it's growing fast.
It sounds like Koh Samui is evolving beyond just being a vacation spot. It's becoming something more.
It is. And that evolution brings new opportunities for investors who are willing to adapt.
Okay, so that's this new trend. But what about the traditional vacation rental market? Is that still a good investment?
Oh, absolutely. The vacation rental market is still strong, especially for those prime locations.
So those beachfront villas with killer ocean views are still in high demand.
You bet. Especially if they have that touch of luxury. Those properties can bring in a lot of rental income, particularly during those peak tourist seasons.
But we have to remember the seasonality, right? Tourist destinations have their busy times and slower times.
True. Visitor numbers fluctuate, which affects how much you can rent a place for and how often it's actually occupied. Investors need to keep that in mind.
It's not just about the peak season. It's about the average occupancy over the entire year to really see those potential returns.
Couldn't agree more. Good research and a realistic outlook are essential.
Now let's talk about the different types of properties. We've mentioned luxury villas, condos. What else is out there for those considering Koh Samui?
The market is pretty diverse, You've got traditional Thai houses, modern apartments, even land available for development.
Wow, something for everyone, depending on your budget and what you're envisioning, I guess.
Exactly. Whether it's a charming vacation home, a sprawling estate, or a plot of land to build your dream project, Koh Samui has it all.
That's a lot of options. How do you even begin to narrow it down?
Well, like we talked about earlier, it's all about matching your investment strategy to your personal goals and how you want to live.
So like a family wanting a vacation home might go for a big villa with a pool, while a couple might prefer a stylish condo that's easy to rent out.
Exactly. And then there's the entrepreneurial types. They might invest in commercial real estate, like a hotel or a restaurant, something that serves both tourists and locals.
So many possibilities. It's exciting to think about investing in Koh Samui's future, being part of its growth.
It is exciting. But remember, balance is key. Understand the rewards, but don't forget those potential risks we talked about.
Right. And that's where local experts come in,
Yeah.
like people who really know the market inside and out. They can be invaluable guides.
Absolutely. Working with good real estate agents, legal advisors, even property managers, especially for those new to investing in Thailand.
We've touched on real estate agents and lawyers, but what about property managers? Why are they so important, especially for people who aren't living on Koh Samui full-time?
Oh, a property manager can be a lifesaver if you're not there all the time. They handle everything. Marketing the property, finding tenants, collecting rent, dealing with repairs.
So they take care of all those day-to-day landlord tasks, and you can focus on the bigger picture.
Exactly. They're like your eyes and ears on the ground, making sure your investment is in good hands and generating that income.
That peace of mind is worth a lot. Now, what about financing? Can foreign investors get mortgages in Thailand?
It can be tough, but not impossible. Traditional mortgages from Thai banks were hard to get as a foreigner, but there are other options.
Like what? What kind of alternatives are there?
Some developers offer financing, and there are private lenders who specialize in working with foreign investors.
So it takes more effort compared to getting a mortgage back home, but it's doable with the right help.
Right. Do your research, find experienced financial advisors who know the Thai market. They can be really helpful.
Okay, we've covered a lot of practical stuff. Now let's talk about the bigger picture. What are the long-term prospects for Koh Samui's real estate market? What does the future hold?
Well, as we've discussed, Koh Samui's changing. It's diversifying its economy, embracing new trends like remote work and sustainability.
So it's not just relying on tourism anymore.
Exactly. These developments are creating a more resilient, multifaceted market, one with potential for long-term growth and value appreciation.
That's encouraging for anyone considering a long-term investment in Koh Samui.
It is. But remember, a balanced perspective is key. The potential is there, but so are the risks.
So before we go to the final part, if you had to give one piece of advice to someone seriously considering investing in Koh Samui real estate, what would it be?
That's a tough one, like boiling it all down to one magic formula. But I'd say don't rush.
Don't rush.
Yeah, take your time, really research the market, look at different property types, and connect with good local experts. That's key.
Makes sense. It's easy to get caught up in the dream, picturing yourself on that beach, but being informed is always better.
Exactly. Impulse decisions aren't usually the best when it comes to real estate. Knowledge and planning are your friends.
Now let's talk more about what makes Koh Samui special. We know the beaches are amazing, but what else draws people in? What are some unique attractions?
Well, for nature lovers, there's Ang Thon National Marine Park.
I've heard of that. It's like an island chain, right?
Yeah, 42 islands, limestone cliffs, hidden lagoons, incredible beaches. It's paradise for anyone who likes being outdoors.
Snorkeling, diving, kayaking. Sounds amazing.
It is. And for those more into culture, there's the big Buddha temple, this huge golden statue. It's iconic.
I've seen pictures. It's pretty impressive. What about the nightlife?
Yeah.
I hear Koh Samui's got a lively scene.
Oh, yeah, it does. Especially around Chawling and Lamai beaches. Beach bars, clubs, live music, night markets, it's all there.
So something for everyone. Adventure, relaxation, culture. Sounds like you can really immerse yourself in that island life.
You can, and create some unforgettable memories along the way.
Speaking of immersing yourself, what about the practical side of living in Koh Samui, cost of living, that sort of thing? How does it compare to other parts of Thailand or even other expat destinations?
It's generally more expensive than mainland Thailand, but still pretty affordable compared to lots of Western countries.
So you can live comfortably without breaking the bank.
Yeah, for the most part. Food, accommodation, transportation, it's all reasonable. And there are options for different budgets.
What about healthcare? That's always a concern for people moving abroad.
Koh Samui has good hospitals and clinics, and if you need something more specialized, there are international standard hospitals in Surat Thani, which is easy to reach by ferry.
Good to know. So it seems like you get that balance of modern conveniences and a more relaxed pace of life.
You do. And there's a big expat community, which is great for support and making connections.
Ah, that makes a difference. Having people who understand the experience.
Exactly. It helps with feeling settled, not so isolated.
Okay, so we've highlighted a lot of positives, but let's be real. Are there any downsides to living in Koh Samui? Things people should consider before making a move?
Well, it is a tropical island, so the humidity can be intense, especially during the rainy season.
That's something to keep in mind if you're not used to that kind of climate.
And while the transportation's decent, traffic can get bad in some spots, especially when it's busy with tourists.
Important things to factor in. It's all about managing expectations, being prepared.
And even though Koh Samui is generally affordable, costs can add up if you're living a more luxurious lifestyle, eating out at fancy places all the time.
So have a budget and be mindful of your spending.
Exactly. And remember, island life can feel a bit isolated sometimes, especially if you're coming from a busy city.
That's true. It's about finding the right fit for your personality.
Couldn't agree more. Koh Samui offers a lot, but it's important to go in with open eyes, knowing the good and the maybe not so good.
So to wrap up our deep dive, what key takeaways should our listeners keep in mind if they're thinking about Koh Samui real estate?
Do your research. That's number one. Look at online resources, talk to local agents, get as much information as you can about the market, the areas, the types of properties.
Knowledge is power.
Right. Then think about your goals and your risk tolerance. What do you want to achieve with this investment? Rental income, long-term growth, or both?
And how do you see yourself using the property? Living there full-time,
Yeah.
part-time, just for vacations?
All important questions to ask yourself. Once you know what you're looking for, find those experienced professionals who can guide you.
The real estate agents, the lawyers, maybe a property manager.
Don't be shy about asking questions. The more you know, the better choices you'll make.
Great advice. We've covered a lot. The beauty of Koh Samui, the investment potential, the challenges, the importance of being informed.
It's been fascinating exploring this evolving market, seeing how it blends island charm with real estate opportunities.
And as always, we encourage you to keep exploring. Talk to those local experts, maybe even visit Koh Samui. Feel the vibe for yourself.
Investing in real estate is a big decision, especially overseas. But with knowledge and a clear understanding of what you want, you can make a choice that's right for you.
So there you have it, deep divers. We've journeyed through the world of Koh Samui real estate, and now it's your turn to explore. Happy diving.